Let's talk now, though, to Andrew Allison, head of campaigns at the Freedom Association, who sent me a message last night saying he was incandescent with rage after watching Boris Johnson announce a second, or is it the third, or is it the fourth national lockdown. Andrew, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Now, I've just had a reasonably, shall we say, interestingly lively conversation with John Rentoul about all of this. He is of the opinion that it's all right to ruin everybody else's future as long as we can somehow safeguard the future of children, which I have to say is a rather bizarre way to look at things.
Well, it is a very bizarre way of looking at things. I mean, I put my 4-year-old son to bed last night, Mike, and we didn't have a clue whether he was going to school today or not. I mean, that is not a way to treat parents. You know, we've been running around this morning trying to work out what to do. My wife works a few hours for the Freedom Association as well, doing some admin. We're not teachers. Suddenly we are going to have to be teachers. His school has been in touch. He has to log on a Microsoft Teams account for a lesson, some sort of registration at 11 a.m. I mean, this is just not the right way to treat people. But going back to lockdowns, I mean, we left tier 1 into tier 2 just before the November lockdown. And after the lockdown, we were in tier 3.
Right.
So, I mean, it obviously didn't work very well, did it?
Well, that's right. I mean, I've been saying to people all week, basically, that since we had the November lockdown, we're now told that the rise in cases in December was from November because there's a sort of 2 or 3 week lag, apparently, before you actually count them in, which tells me that all those 4 weeks of lockdown in November were completely and utterly pointless.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned in your interview with John Rentoul, your interview yesterday with Dr. Lawrence Gerlis, which I heard, and from memory, he said something like this new variant of COVID-19 is around 15 to 20 times more contagious. We can't contain this, so we have to just protect the vulnerable. We have to get this vaccine rolled out as quickly as possible. But treating parents like this, treating businesses like this, treating children like this, who are going to lose at least 6 weeks of education. And Michael Gove said it could be more, it could be longer. We could still be discussing this lockdown in the middle of March, Mike.
Well, I don't have any confidence, Andrew, and I'm sure you don't. Sorry, I don't have any confidence, Andrew, and I'm sure you don't either, that come the middle of February, or half term as it would normally be, that we'll be in a better place. We may be in a worse place.
I think we could well be in a worse place. And we know that it's the children from poorer backgrounds who do have problems accessing the internet, and their parents don't have the equipment needed, who are going to lose out in all of this. I mean, my son's in a fortunate position. We've got computers around, we've got iPads around, we've got super fast broadband, and we can juggle our lives. But we will have to juggle our lives. We'll have to work well into the evening as a result of doing this. But we can manage it. But the children from poorer backgrounds are going to be disadvantaged yet again. And they lost months of education last year.
Yes, and I mean, it's not just whether they're from poorer backgrounds or not. I mean, all children are suffering from mental health problems at the moment because, I mean, my own 2 kids who are teenagers haven't seen their friends. They're not likely now to see anybody for another possibly 6 to 7 weeks, possibly longer. It's not normal. It's not natural. It's not the way that we should be living.
It's not, and my son is struggling as well as a result of all of that. But so's my wife and I. We're feeling down. I started last year with Brexit happening on the 31st of January, really optimistic. The year, feeling about as pessimistic as I could possibly feel.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is the other thing, right? As far as the way that the world is kind of playing out, we are not supposed to be creatures who don't go out. I mean, when I was told yesterday that Boris Johnson was going to make a statement and probably put us into a new national lockdown, I thought to myself, well, what else can he stop us from doing? We haven't been doing anything basically for the best part of the last 2 months. We haven't seen anybody really. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to come to work because I need to be in this studio in order to put this broadcast out. But I didn't see any friends over Christmas. I saw my family, which was great. I haven't been on holiday anywhere abroad because that's not allowed. I haven't been able to go shopping if I wanted to, buy myself a couple of suits or buy myself a pair of shoes. I can't go anywhere without a mask on. I'm allowed to go and buy food, but that's it. You can't get a haircut. If I was a woman, I'd probably want to get my nails done. Some men may want to get their nails done. The point is, we can't do anything already. So what on earth is the point of this next stage?
Well, I couldn't agree more with you. I messaged my vicar last night to say our church is open, and she just replied and said, "I haven't a clue."
Right.
And I still don't know.
Right.
This has just been rushed through so much. But I think apart from sort of schools being open and and churches, places of worship being open. I mean that was tier 4, wasn't it? So now we've just moved to closing schools and closing places of worship.
Yeah, and yet, of course, I dare say, certainly, I was reporting earlier that Heathrow, there are planes coming in from all over the world. People are arriving here from all over the world. Nobody knows where they've come from or what they may have to bring with them because they're not being tested on arrival. You know, I presume people are still going to be arriving in Dover on dinghies from France. You know, nobody's stopping that from going on. And yet we, as citizens of this country, can't go down the road.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, this is where the lockdown was really mismanaged 10 months ago, where Italy was the coronavirus hotspot of Europe. And yet we were still flying people into to London without any tests and allowing them in the UK. Now, that didn't make any sense at the time.
Well, I think they've only just now prevented flights coming in to London from South Africa. This is after December the 18th, so it's almost a good 2 weeks after they worked out that that's where the new variant came from.
It's only 2 weeks too late.
That's it, 2 weeks. I mean, from the point of view of the Freedom Association, you might as well disband it, mightn't you?
I'm sure we'll get our freedoms back eventually. But this has to be, you know, the most authoritarian government that we've ever had. And also, what is it about Boris? As soon as he says that something isn't going to happen, you sort of know it is going to happen.
Right.
I mean, as late as sort of yesterday morning, he was saying schools still need to stay open. It's important to keep kids' education going. And then about 8 hours later, he says, no, we're closing them. I mean, what the hell has changed
I know.
in those 8 hours?
Well, all I can imagine is that enough people knock on his door and go in and say something to him, and then he goes along with it. And he goes, oh, right, then. Because, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, everything that he says is going to happen doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. And what he needs to show leadership. You can't base your policy on the last person you spoke to.
No.
You know, we need a Thatcher-like figure who would have just stuck to her guns, no matter what other people around were saying. And of course, she was from a scientific background. I think that probably would have helped as well.
That probably would have helped. I mean, I don't know about you, but I watched his interview with Andrew Marr. I said this yesterday, and he looked like a guy who was being held hostage. You know, he actually said at one point there is no scientific consensus. He also said that schools were safe. He also said that, you know, not all scientists agreed on policy, and it was up to him to sort of pick and choose which policy he decided to go with. But, you know, he almost was saying it out of the corner of his mouth, hoping that nobody would hear him.
Yeah, it did appear like that. He just looked like a man held hostage. He looks a bit like Prince Harry, doesn't he, really? I mean, he looks a man who's held hostage by Meghan Markle.
Yeah, but I think you could probably draw a few comparisons there. But listen, Andrew, I wish you well. I'm told, by the way, that churches are supposedly open for communal prayer and individual worship, but you can only attend with your household and support bubble. So I guess if they are having open prayer meetings, you can go to them. But I guess it will depend on which part of the country you're in, really.
It probably will, but I'm a church organist, so it looks like I won't be playing the organ.
No, sadly. Andrew, listen, keep well. We'll talk to you again soon. Andrew Allison there, who is, of course, head of campaigns at the Freedom Association. We need people from the Freedom Association now more than ever, I think, to try and get our freedoms back.